Let's just say the poor hydro dragster has not lived in the nicest of conditions for the last 2 years. But we're going to get the tires pumped up and rip it out of here because it's time for it to become something else. If you're new to the channel, this is our hydro dragster build that we did a few years ago, and I built it specifically for my girlfriend. Everything possible has been shifted forward, so there is no way this machine can wheelie. Well, with a hydro at 28 miles per hour, it couldn't wheelie. But we're going to convert this to the new push-button dragster, and we're going to stuff an MST-206 in it that a friend of ours gave us. And we're going to see if we can punch this thing and make it do something. Now, what I meant by how it's been shifted so it just plain cannot wheelie. The front axle has been brought all the way forward. So as you can see, stock location is there. It's been brought all the way forward, lifted, kicked by 6 degrees. The bar is cut in order to fit through the front of the frame. And the steering has been upgraded to 3/8 Heim joints on the push and the pull side of the bar. The entire steering column assembly has been dropped down by 8 inches, if I remember right. It's got reinforced ball bearings through here. The entire seating assembly has been shifted, so that's where it normally would be. This is where it is now. It's been shifted 4 inches forward, if I remember right. And so this actually creates it so instead of sitting exactly over the rear axle like you normally do, you sit so far ahead of the rear axle that it just plain can't do anything. That's the reason why my wheelie bar on this was literally just for show and slid into these 2 rear bars. And the problem we ran into when Jessie was driving it, who weighs about 100 pounds on a good day, is that she actually didn't weigh enough and it would spin these turf tires. So the battery ended up getting relocated to the rear of this thing in order to give her 40 pounds. And then I also upgraded this seat to, I don't remember what these come on. I believe they're an old school Yardman MTD seat. But this seat was made so that you could beat somebody to death with it. It's, here, listen to me drop it. You could kill somebody with that seat. So that's going to come off of here. The other problem is Jessie is 5 foot. I am 6'1", and I don't reach the gas pedal without eating my kneecap. But first things first, let's find out if this bugger will come to life, because I ended up roaching my 14.5. I'm going to be ripping this entire engine off of here, doing a governor delete, swapping to cheater 540 heads, switching over to a carb that's been converted over to interchangeable jets. I'll show you guys that also. And copper head gasket along with 48-pound GX390 springs. But I figure none of that matters if this doesn't actually run. As you can see, the mice have been in here. We've got some fresh gas. See if it'll actually do anything. That was a quick little fire. Okay, give it a little more gas. Well, why'd we die? Wait a minute. That is not very adorable. Something core rotted that thing really bad. On a side note, this is the old school mud mower method for being able to make a throttle. So If you have the spring there like normal, you put this into there and glue it in with 5-ton epoxy. Then you can put your gas pedal here. And the big thing about this is it allows you to still have your choke override in play. So you can just run your choke up in here, or you can just use a choke override right in here. Well, the good news is it runs. Bad news is it's puffing white smoke out the carburetor, which shows it's got the classic Briggs & Stratton leaking head gasket. But that's okay. We were going to swap over the 540 diamond cut heads anyway, so I'm not really worried about it. By the way, if you want to know what I'm talking about when it comes to diamond cut heads, so flat lined heads like this are the original design that was on these 500 cc's. They later on came out with a 540 cc series that has a diamond kind of look right in here. It's kind of a star, diamond, whatever. Either way, it doesn't have straight lines. And those heads actually have bigger ports, and they flow better than the straight cut heads, but they originally came on 540 cc engines. So, you know, pick and choose your battles on what you want to do. Now, let's address a few things. So, this is a Hydro Gear 316. That's an MST 206 Peerless. One of the reasons why I chose this chassis to do this swap, besides the fact that the Hydro is fried, because I'm big and I sat on it and nuked it for the third time, is that the spacing for a 316 on the rear is exactly the same as an MST 206, a Spicer 3600, and a Spicer 4360. Also, the pushback brake on an MST 206 is the same pushback brake assembly that is on a Hydro Gear 316. Even the spacing from center of axle to push is 7 inches on both of them. So in theory, this should actually be a pretty easy swap. Should. Also, you might be an OG mud mower if you know why the pulley on there and the pulley that just came off this MST 206 is perfection. Do you know what it is? I'll tell you, just for the heck of it. That right there is about the exact size of about 4.5 to 5 inches. That's great for a mud mower if you want to go about 25 miles per hour. And what you do is you grind these rivets off of here, and this inner hub that fits on the MST pops out. The whole pulley comes apart. And then you weld that hub into the cutout center of that pulley, and you've got the perfect rear pulley for your mud mower assembly. There we go, bolted right up. Apparently the Hydro bolts are actually longer than the regular bolts, so that's not such a bad thing. The brake lines up, seems to work fine. Needs a little bit of adjustment, but we're on the right track. Now, we do need to make pieces that come from here up and bolt into these two holes here, which is why those are there, is to mount the manual transmission. And these two holes here have got to go to a bracket down here. And then after that, the big issue is going to be the shift handle geometry. So most of the time, shift handles, usually the kickdown goes this way because you've got to go that way in order to click through the gears. We've got a lot of adjustment over here, which is weird because most standard transmission units don't have the adjustable setup here. So if we unscrew that, we can actually clock this entire unit back and forth. So right now I've got it perfectly centered, and before I popped everything, I made lines for where center was in the way it was cut to fit the pan. This little welder and I are very quickly becoming close friends. I think this is my new favorite $100 welder. I'll post a link down below. So this thing here is the 220/110 variant, but they make a 110 volt version also. And it does a regular standard flux core MIG, has the port down here in order to be able to stick weld, and it'll do lift TIG if you're into that kind of idea. I mean, it's got a beautiful screen. See if I can get it to power up. Very easily adjustable. This is a click button, which lets you choose what it is that you're interacting with. And it'll gauge you out on what it thinks you should be able to weld based on your amperage with your voltage. And it's pretty close. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's definitely pretty close. Anyways, I have made probably the ugliest shifter assembly in my career, but I will tell you one thing. Having been a custom lawn tractor, gas-powered power wheel creationist for 12 years, that shifter linkage and setting it up yourself will take you the longest out of just about anything, I bet. I've been doing this for going on 12 years, and that still took me like almost 2 hours to sort out. Like, I bet I probably relocated, attempted, recut, rewelded at least 12 times. But anyways, so at this point, we have neutral, we've got reverse, we got neutral, and we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so that is not the nicest shifting ever. And this transmission's definitely got a phantom gear. I haven't figured out whether the phantom is 4th gear or whether it's 5th gear, but this bugger, yeah, I'm gonna bet we're gonna end up in this at some point. Unfortunately, we've hit that time where we gotta go and dig out the organ donor here. We've got the big giant twin over here, but we'd have to try and find a different type of electric clutch to work with that. Ultimately, if I can get this electric clutch idea going, the Sears Dragster is what I really would love to create a ESC controlled variant for. And the Bug's got a spare 22 in it, and this is John's pressure washer setup. That came off of a pressure washer. We ordered a 7/8 pulley for it. It worked pretty good. As you can see, he was pretty short when we built this, because that's the extension that he used. But unfortunately, it ate the synchros. Well, the synchros were already gone, and it eventually just kind of ate the gears out of it. Someday. But anyways, for now, let's get this running, hopefully one more time, in order to go to the garage. Oh, wow. That was a plume of smoke. Let's see if it'll do that twice. This is our current toggle momentary switch to there. Yeah. Uh-oh. Alright, I'm gonna put you guys down. I think I'm gonna have to limp this and hope it makes it. Down to basically the last couple of pieces. I wanted to show this right here if the camera will pick it up. That right there is blue for 48-pound GX 390 springs from NR Racing. Now, let's see about this copper head gasket, shall we? Now, the spark plug definitely shows oil. So, spark plug shows oil. Let's see what we got going on in here. Oh yeah. Right there. It tried to torch it in the same spot they always do. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat the caca out of this on the stove. Another YouTuber called Polar Bear Ed showed doing these on a hot plate. I think I might try that when the better half is not home. Now, at first glance, a regular standard head versus a 540 head does not look like that big of a deal. A little bit of difference in how they did the casting for the airflow, a few things like that. But if we look at that port versus this port, it's a gigantic difference. On top of that, these are slide caps, and they can come loose just from beating the snot out of them. These, on the other hand, are keepered, like a car or a truck. They also use larger rocker nuts, which is good, but the one big thing that is different between them in the long term I'm mowing my grass with it is the inside of here. That is the old school, and it is known to crack a line right here, and then the intake, the vacuum difference, will suck oil out of your engine, progressively killing your engine while you have no idea what's going on. If we come over here, we've got a bigger, deeper chamber and fully reinforced right here. Now, Briggs had the theory that supposedly this reinforcement was going to stop this blowout from happening. I hate to say it, but it doesn't. The blowout right in here still happens in the long term. As you can see, that's what killed this one on the engine that it was on. There's right there the remnants of a head gasket, and this is it eating the oil until it finally killed itself. 48 hours to race day. Forecast for race day is 85% chance of thunderstorms. We're going to pretend that the Weather Channel didn't say that, and we're going to keep working. Because if we don't keep working, it'll be a perfect day, and then I won't make it racing. But I wanted to point this out here, because I know I'm going to get asked this question. This is a standard head with slide-on cap. This is the keeper head, the 540. And you can see that the valves are very different. Exact same length, exact same size, but very different top. We did confirm that the 48-pound springs will fit into the 540 head, so that's good. But I wanted to point this out because I race a couple of different classes. In one class, I am not allowed to modify the head. In the other class, I am. And whether you're dealing with this head or whether you're dealing with the 540 head, they both have the same stupid design for the exhaust port. So you can see it's nice and big, and then we swoop over and it comes in to like a D shape. And if you measure that D shape, it is smaller on the inside than the actual outside port. Right there, you can see it coming in, and you can see the edge of it right there. So I don't know why they made it so that it thins as it comes into the valve, but that's the opposite of what you want for horsepower. So on my Patreon page, I have exhaust flange templates that you can send to SendCutSend and have them do for you. This is made to port match to a 540 head. So if we take this, and let me grab this, and we put these two next to each other, this is my free for the download Duramax 500cc. This is what comes stock on a Briggs. Yeah. So this goes out to a 1 1/4 pipe. This goes to, like, I think externally it's 1 1/8, but internally it's just barely over an inch. We pulled the oil. The oil came out good. The oil out of that came out looking like another round of Terminator. You can see the entire silver bottom in there. But the other thing is we're probably going to use that cover because, so when Briggs started selling to Simplicity mowers, Broadman, and a couple of others, they had these tops, and for some reason, I guess it was one of those supposedly size matters things, they made these multi-layer tops where this is underneath this top here, and they're both sheet metal tops. They're both extremely heavy. I don't remember why I put this on there, but we're going to switch it to the single layer top because that's another like 3 pounds we can cut easily off the weight. And we also have a hips don't lie problem. I built this dragster based on somebody half my size with half the width of hips. So Jesse's hips are just about the size of this crease. My hips come all the way out to the edge of that. So I've got a problem. And then the other problem is my knees come out like this. So when I go to shift into second gear, I hit the side of my leg. I think what I'm going to do is grab this rod, cut the top off of it, weld it to the top of this, and janky the thing out to here. I really don't like that look. I think it's very unprofessional looking, but I don't see a quick workaround other than that right now. Oh yeah, this poor thing definitely had a head gasket failure. Also, 31 is the block number. You can find it right there. On a 28, the 28 is hidden right here on the block, just as a quick way to find it. And this thing is filled to the nines with sludge from a blown out head gasket. And this thing is filled to the nines with some sort of silver chunky through everything. But the reason why we popped this was to be able to grab our governor delete that we already did on this one out of it. So this one is going to swap for this one that has the pin still on it. And you also have to cut this arm off right there in that corner, as you can see here, in order to be able to clear. Now the hypothesis most people have had is they think it ate the cam lobes. So let's see if we can get this to pop the cam. That's interesting. The cam doesn't want to come out. Excuse me. There it goes. So, did it eat the cam lobes? Oh yeah, I would say it chattered those pretty good. I don't feel like digging out a cam in order to compare right now. But those are definitely polished. Let's see if either of the guides has been eaten. That one's actually pretty good. How about the lower one? Well, I guess technically it's the upper one. No, that one's perfectly fine too. I don't know. I really haven't found anywhere that it was actually significantly eating metal so far. It doesn't have any rod knock. The cylinder shows scoring, but the scoring is definitely from the metal shards that are coming out of there. So something in there is gone. I don't know. Maybe we'll try and revive it with the entire AVE whatever anti-vibration system removed and go from there. But for now, I've got to get this back up and running. Everybody has their own method of cleaning heads and stuff. Recently, my go-to has been Dawn Platinum. Coat the snot out of everything. Let it sit there and eat into it for like half an hour. Come back, rinse everything off. Dry it as best as I can, and then recoat it with PB Blaster on everything but the head surface if possible. I don't know. What do you guys think? What's your favorite way to clean these out? Cheap, at home, not with like expensive, insanely priced ultrasonic cleaners. Little bit of elbow grease, and we've got valves lapped in and all happy. We did the power drill method on those because it was what it was. Got blue springs to press in, and let's see if we can shine a light down through here. There's not much you can do on the intake side. There's a little bit right in the bottom you can grind down, and then you can't see it, but there's a lip right in underneath here you can take off. And the same thing with the exhaust side. You can grind into that lip, and then you've got the side there and the side there that you can take down. Let's see if I can flip it. I left the carbon burn in so that it would be really easy to see. Yes, I know I should grab a sandpaper thing and I should polish it out a little bit further, but we don't have time for that. We've got 36 hours to be at the track, so this is getting thrown together. I do have a valve spring compressor clamp, but I managed to put the other set into the other head by just simply setting this underneath the valve and then pressing down in and clipping it in. But those were slide-on caps and not locking tab caps or whatever you call those. Retention clips, I can't think of it. Anyways, they weren't automotive grade ones. Actually, those pressed in way easier than the slide caps were to do. Anybody happen to know the proper cooking time on a copper head gasket? I think I'm just going to see if I can make it glow, and then go from there. And ignore the smoke. Don't worry, the baby's currently outside. That's interesting. The brake cleaner, I think, turned it gray. I'm going to go with leaving it there for 3 minutes. That seems about right. This is future Neil, having to rip the head off because he's an idiot and didn't do the retainer correctly, and now has to re-crimp and redo the stupid retainer. So basically, I should have known I was wrong, because I should have made sure that went on there. Now, I can put the engine back together for a second time. The supervisor decided to wake up from his nap just in time to figure out the belt system in underneath here. It's interesting that these are both supposedly the same exact style of AYP chassis, but yet for some reason I needed a 2-inch shorter belt to fit in this one instead of the older style AYP. Something must have changed during manufacturing. If you choose to do the 440 head, you're gonna end up in a damned if you do and damned if you don't if you're using the old set of metal and the old top, because this was never designed to come around this wider flange. If you cut a notch right in here, you can drop the top down a little bit and then wedge this in right in here, and at least it won't move like that. But either way, it kind of sucks. Got the valve compression wrong. There we go. Just wanted to burp it, make sure that it actually ran before we went any further. Need gas tank, throttle hooked up, valve cover once I double checked valve tuning, and the header. And then I still gotta get the push button hooked up. But we already double checked that the clutch will engage. Side note, Briggs and their usual factory quality, This is supposed to have a 3-inch shaft. It has a 3 1/8 inch shaft. The other Briggs did have a 3-inch shaft, so that meant I had to respace the clutch. Thanks, Briggs. I meant to show you guys the carb modification. I forgot. Everything's thrown together, so I hunted around till I could find another carb. Basically, on these stupid plastic bottom carbs, if you try to drill that out, it doesn't work. It's got a little rubber O-ring in there, and all it does is just spin around, and it's just hell. So what you do is you punch that thing back out through the bottom of that hole, and then you take a 3/16 drill bit and you drill that out. And then if you're careful, you can grab VM22 jets and you can screw them into the bottom of that, giving you the ability to change your jets. So that's what I was talking about. Sorry I couldn't show you, but literally you just drill that out, just one size bigger than it is, and those screw right into it. We got the brake independent from the clutch rod with a spring underneath to bring it back into place. We rolled this around a little bit, and I think the problem is we've got phantom gears in the transmission. I thought this was a low-hour transmission, and I think it's actually a high-hour transmission that somebody burnt out second, third, and fifth in. So, yeah, let's go take it for a ride, I guess. Clutch all set. Let's fire her up.